What's the prescription to turn around the attitudes that are causing black men to be murdered by police officers at a rate of 21 times that of those in the white community?
Well, I don't know the formula for it. I know that all of us who do this work, and it's a lot of folks, mostly people of color as well as myself and other white allies, trying to figure out the riddle to that. I do think that what it's going to take, a couple things. Number one is that white folks are going to have to be confronted with the way that we have been misled and put into a state of denial by the conditioning of the culture. You know, people don't like to be confronted with the things they don't know, particularly if you're confronting them in a way to say that you've been lied to, you've had things hidden from you. No one wants to, because no one wants to think they're stupid or they got fooled.
What's been hidden from white folks?
Well, I mean, if you think about the history of law enforcement, most white Americans have no understanding of the police as a weapon used against black and brown bodies. But if you look at the history, that has been the way ever since slave codes, ever since the black codes post-emancipation, ever since slave patrols in the 1700s, ever since, you know, the way there were white on black race riots, at least 30 white on black race riots in the early part of the 20th century that cops actively participated in. How many white folks, for that matter, how many black folks grew up knowing that stuff? It wasn't in our schools, so unless you had a parent that taught you or you had mentors who taught you about that, you wouldn't have known it. So I think, in a way, I use the analogy of the film The Matrix, right, where you could take the blue pill or the red pill. You take the blue pill, you go back to sleep, you remain oblivious to what's happening. You take the red pill, you have enlightenment, and as Lawrence Fishburne says in that movie, I'll take you down the rabbit hole and show you how deep it goes. No way to be white in America has been to be walking around with the IV drip with the blue pill going through it every day of your life, not even knowing that you're walking around with it. And then when black and brown folks come out, they're taking the red pill because they don't have a lot of choice. They're like, don't you see the racism? And the blue pill folks were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So I think we have to confront that denial, number one. And the second thing we got to do is we have to acknowledge this thing is systemic. I think the reason white folks get defensive about the conversation is if you say we're going to talk about racism, white Americans think you're getting ready to call them racist. And that's not what we're not talking about. Individual racists. I, for one, don't care if Darren Wilson is a racist. What I care about is a culture of policing that engenders the abuse of black and brown people, even among cops who are not bigots. Like, he could be a Boy Scout. He could be a great guy. You know, I had this conversation when George Zimmerman killed Trayvon. And I realized George Zimmerman, technically a Latino, but pretty white identified in terms of his character and who he hangs out with and all that. Here's a guy, they said, well, he's not a racist. He dated a black girl, took her to prom, mentored black children. It doesn't matter because he is internalizing the same messages from the media, from the schools that we all are. So we don't have to feel guilty.
What are those messages?
Those messages are that black men are dangerous because if you look at the news, there have been studies on this. Local news overrepresents black folks as perpetrators, overrepresents white folks as victims. So the message that gets sent is they're dangerous and specifically to you. They are not only bad people, they're going to hurt you. So therefore, we want to keep them on that side of town. We want to keep their children in those schools over there. We don't want to work around them. We don't want to live around them, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that message comes through loud and clear in the way that media represents people of color. You know, whenever we, thinking about Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old child that was shot in Cleveland by police, when that happened, what did they do? The first news story in Cleveland that made a big splash was about Tamir Rice's parents and the history of domestic abuse and criminality among his parents, not about the cop that killed him. We talk worse about black victims than we do white killers. What did we say about Ted Bundy? Oh, he was so smart and he was so quiet and he always seemed so nice. Every time one of these white boys goes and shoots up a school, what do we say? We had no idea he was going to do this. So we talk better, we have more sympathy for white folks who commit mass murder, bury bodies under the house, cook them up in a soup pot and eat them, right? Than we do black folks who were killed by police. We start digging for every bad thing they ever did.